Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be together, especially after today and what I've been witnessing with marriages that go awry. And every day it's been a battle. I think I'm going to put this on so it'll be better recorded. So, we were saying last week and the week before, like really the main ingredient to help us keep sane in our heads throughout our marriages is using our faculty of imagination for learning Torah, for meditating, and when that is taking place, then that power within us is used in a holy way, and then the Yetzer Hara doesn't end up tricking us into feeling like, that it's a lost case, that nothing's going to change in this, that a person starts getting sad or weakened physically, the Rabbi Ginsburg says, because of the anxiety and the stress from all these bombardment of imaginative ideas about marriage. So the more you fill your mind with the knowledge of marriage, of what God intended in marriage, the more you have spiritual weapons against this Yetzer Hara that's trying to drag you down and make you really frustrated in the marriage. And that just ends up being a vicious cycle, because as soon as the woman's frustrated and doesn't have emunah in the marriage, and the husband feels it and he gets a sense of rejection, and then he doesn't put as much into it, and then it just feeds off and can end up being a place of just fire. As we were learning, the word for Isha has Hey in it, and she has 5 faculties of Gvura. The man has the letter Yud in the name Ish, and he has 10 faculties of Gvura, and each one is missing an element. The Yud, although it's 10, is very puny and is very limited and needs to be expanded. So all his holy characteristical traits, all that his soul faculties are there, but it's puny. And just like a woman takes a man's seed and builds his seed up and makes the child within her womb, so too the woman has the power to build the faculties of her husband's soul and develop it and expand it. Now, where is she missing? She has 5. They are expansive because Hay is expansive, but she's lacking the other 5. So as she's building him up, she ends up being built up too. And then they both become built up, and then there is that place of unity and love the way it was before that even came down to this world. As we were learning that when a husband and wife first meet each other, before they get married, they get attracted to one another at the level of their higher soul. Once they get married, that spark, that attraction, that pizzazz that made them want to be together kind of goes to the back burner, and then they have to relate to one another at a lower level. And then they can't handle each other. This one's on looking at that. The other person is seeing the negativity, and each other can, God forbid, get to a place of even disgust and hatred, God forbid. So Rabbi Ginsburg in his Mystery of Marriage says, each one has to work on refining themselves. And when they start to work on refining themselves, then the higher powers have a little more space to reside in them, and then they can relate to each other in this way. Now, before we go into the next chapter, I have to say that that now one could clearly see that, because we had said also last week, it's so easy to feel like he hid that from me. If I knew this about him, forget it. I wouldn't have chose him. But that's not your fault and not his fault, because you were both at a higher level soul before marriage. And so that's why you were able to relate to each other on that level.
Because just like the soul was so high up in Shemayim, but it agrees to come down into this lowly, dark world with the dark challenges in order to even get on a higher level. When we were up in Shemayim, we were united with our loved ones back to back. Okay, we were one, but it still is not front to front. So we come into this dark experience, challenging, ugliness, and sometimes to this extreme. We have to battle through it to get to that higher level of love and unity than even when we were up in Shemayim. The same way it is for the soul that was so comfortable up in Shemayim and didn't have to go through any crisis up there and was so connected to Hashem. But why does the soul want to come into this dark world? Because he knows and she knows that by coming through this dark world and fighting through the darkness, they'll have an even better relationship with Hashem. So the same thing with the soulmates, especially the woman. Because she didn't even have to come down to this world, as we said earlier in a previous class. She could do all her tikkunim up in Shemayim. But when the husband didn't make it this time around, she was willing to come back down and try again to elevate him. So I want to start with a story before we go into the next chapter. And this is a story that really changed my life. There was a story of a man who was new in town, a chassid of the Rebbe, and is, I guess, starting his own Nitzayim and his own shul, and another rabbi was very jealous because he was getting more and more and more of his congregants going into this other shul. And so this rabbi, threatened by this other rabbi, started saying Lashon Hara against him and bashing him, and ridiculing him, any which way to stop this new cultish, Chabad house. So one day, as the Chabad rabbi was walking down the street, he actually fell. It was raining in the mud. And next thing you know, who happens to be there? His opponent. And he actually went down to reach over, looking as if he was going to help him get up from being stuck in the mud. But instead, he took mud and threw it at him, spit at him, and said, "You deserve this." Yeah. So all of a sudden, this man, the Chabad rabbi, got up, ran toward this man, and said to him, "I don't know what I've done, but please, please forgive me. That you really have such hatred toward me. I don't know what I did." So the other man was taken aback, the other rabbi, and he was like, "Oh my gosh. This is a holy man." He could really feel the sincerity in his voice, in his eyes. It melted his klippah right away, and he just embraced him and said, No, I'm the one who has to say, I'm sorry. So when I first heard this story, this is actually written in some parenting book, and the idea was that, everyone can clearly see, look how the warmth in this man's heart turned things around. Meaning when words coming from the heart is sensed by the other one really feels it and has a great power to affect the other. That's really a big message in marriage as well. But I also found another inspiration from this story is that everyone would clearly see, what, the guy's in the mud. Hello? Throw more mud on him? Okay, you don't want to help, but right? So basically, every one of us are stuck in the mud. That's why we're down here, to get out of this mud, get into that higher level of existence. So with love and relationships, we have to take this example as the rabbi could have stood up and say, "How dare you? Who raised you? What? You call yourself a rabbi? You call yourself a Jew?" Right? And then there would have been an all-out war.
But he didn't. He really, from the deepest part of his soul, felt that, look how he's behaving. I feel so bad. Maybe there's something I did that triggered that, and really cared about the rabbi, that he shouldn't be in such a state. So just like we can clearly see in this picture how disgusting it would be to throw mud at someone who's down, right? So our words, we don't want to use as weapons on someone who's already drowning in their own challenges and their own misery and their own Sahara. And typically, to be a man in this generation, I don't know, every day when I say thank you, I'm a woman, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I mean, the pressures, finances, the constant pressures, I mean, it's enormous. When you're under pressure to make money for whatever reason, you'll, and you know, like in that way, I don't know. I think that's, you know, there's leisure in being in your home, like, and not having to, you know. But I think not as much as the men. And they have limited. We have an extra level of wisdom. We see clearly things. We are totally aware. But they are a lot in the dark, and they're clueless on a lot of things. And I'm not like a, you know, feminist. This is like what Rabbi Ginsburg teaches us in a very lofty way, that they have 10, but it's hidden. And we have 5, but our 5 are all out full and powerful. And that's why we have that extra ability to see more clearly. So they're really in the dark. They're really in the mud more than we are. And as women, we have to feel for them in their misery and in their state of being in the mud, and by learning. And by learning and understanding how to get them out, and which we're going to do today, we'll at least not let our words, God forbid, be like mud throwing in their face, making it that much more difficult for them to get out of the mud. So Rabbi Ginsburg talks about 5 levels of how to reach a greater level of wisdom and a greater level of holiness in your marriage. First of all, he says, these are the 5, and then we're going to go into detail. Words of love, words of rebuke, constructive criticism. Number 3, words of praise and admiration. 4, words of control and direction. And 5, words of gratitude. He starts off by saying that, and this is chapter 6. He brings out the pasuk that says, and God formed man from the dust of the earth, and he blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So the question is asked, why is it that there is 2 sections in this saying that there's, like as if there's 2 different souls? So he explains that out of all creation, man is given an extra soul, because every existing thing has a soul that gives it its existence. But man has an extra soul. And what is this extra living soul, which this passage refers to? A speaking spirit. If you know the 4 different levels of categories, there's doimem, the inanimate, there's somea, the vegetative, there's chaya, the animal, and medaber, the speaking person, not the thinking person. Why? Because out of all creation, only humans have the power to speak, and only humans have the power to relate to another. So speech is the way in which a person can relate to another person, and it's a euphemism also for marital relations. Like that's how you can most deeply connect with someone, to speak. So he says that misusing one's faculty of speech is tantamount to misusing one's sexual energy. And what we have to do is rectify the way we speak. Not only do we have to rectify the way we think by using our faculty of imagination and learning Torah, so no ruach shtut and no yetzer hara can as easily penetrate our mind and dominate us, but we also need to rectify the way we speak. Now, he brings out a passage that says, wisdom at the level of das is hidden in the mouth. So I've learned this in many other books as well, in The Power of Return by Rebbe Rashad, when it talks about when you speak words of Torah, when you use your speech in your davening, a holy energy from above the world comes into your mind and gives you greater wisdom that you were even born with, allowing you the extra koach and power to understand God's wisdom. And that happens through speech. Why? Because God created the world with speech. So we're going beyond time and place. We're going to a place of holy powers of creation, and so that we can draw into our life through speech this extra level of wisdom. And this wisdom called das, not just a flash, oh, okay, I know something. It's a level of wisdom that helps us change our behavior. Das is giving us the implementation of our wisdom. So it's like a commodity that we all want. Because to know things and know things is great, but to be able to live the things we learn, to be able to integrate it in our mind, in our heart, and in our actions, we need das. So when we use our speech properly, then we get access to this greater wisdom. So, and what does he say? That when we rectify this level of speech, then the unity of the couple from above, like extra energies from up in Shemayim, come to help the love between them grow. It's a gift that we end up getting, basically. So now, although, you could say, how many times do I have to say words of love to my husband or to my wife? There's this and it's busy and we have to tackle this and that. But he says it's crucial, without sounding trite, to continually find ways to express love to one another, because then it can be very much taken for granted. And this is what happens when you do. This is the gift. When you pay close attention to one's speech and how you speak to your husband, you attach yourself, get with this, to your super conscious powers of your soul. And this super conscious power of your soul starts to affect your mind, your heart, and your ability to act. You think, oh, it's such a simple thing. I love you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Like, you're amazing. Even you feel like that, we're not okay, but I'm just going to try my best to, put blinders on all that's going wrong, focus on one thing, what is going wrong. As Rabbi Manis Friedman says, the fact that you have someone to share the roof over your head with is enough for you to respect them and to be appreciative of them, and how much more so they're trying hard to bring parnasa, and how much more so even if they just, hug your child every once in a while, So I remember in Pirkei Avot where it talks about David HaMelech's story about how wicked Achitophel was against David HaMelech. I mean, wanted him dead, was on the other side of the camp, out to get him. David HaMelech respected him. And why? Achitophel taught him two things. And for that alone, he respected him like a dignitary. So when I read this, I'm like, you know what? We know in the Torah it is a mitzvah. We have to do this anyway. A wife has to respect her husband like she has to respect her parents. Like you would not go to a parent, you did a mistake, you're a loser, I taught it and I learned it this way, right? The same way, a child would have to say, well, Dad, didn't we learn it this way? I'm a little confused. Can we look it up? Like the child has to do that. So we're commanded by law, just like we can't eat pigs and we're not supposed to turn the light on Shabbos, we have to respect our husbands like as if they're our parents. That's bottom line. Try to get infused with this vision of David HaMelech even acting respectfully, and he was a king. He could have said, off with your head. He had every right not to respect him. But he was grateful and honored him for having taught him just two things. So I think every time, like, whatever I can to follow David HaMelech's ways and honor, because that's the mitzvah that I'm given as a woman, and to really focus my attention on the things that a person does in a positive way that person deserves honor and respect. I mean, we all do, even if we don't do anything. We all have godly essence in ourselves. For that alone, Dayenu. So now, if you look at the word Ani Ohev Otach, when you say I love you, it equals 502, and 502 equals the Shekhinah Beinehem. So when you say I love you, then the Shekhinah rests in the home. Then when the Shekhinah rests, you have a super power. You allow that energy in your home to help you attach yourself to your higher superconscious powers. Yeah. So now, yeah, you should say, I love you. You should find creative ways, not to sound contrite every 10 minutes, I love you, but find creative ways to make the other person feel your love and express it. Because by expressing it, you're going to reach higher soul powers of your own that you wouldn't otherwise be able to attach yourself. Yeah. Yeah. As a woman. As a man too, he says. Right. So, good point. He says here in the footnote that a husband should express it more directly and explicitly. And the wife also does, but it generally can be in a more indirect way, meaning by her tone of voice and by her respect and, and also by saying it. Now, this is called Chesed Shebechesed. And this is the first day of creation, Chesed Bechesed. And when was Chesed Bechesed? On the first day, when God created light. So when we use this kindness within kindness in our relationship to our loved ones, we draw this light of the first day of creation into our life. Because if you look at the word ahava, it equals or twice. It's a double light. So we're drawing down for ourselves double energies of light that we need to really bring the light of our loved ones in our family out. The gematria of or and another or equals ahava. Yeah. I don't know, that's how it's written here. I'll double check on that. So, or maybe is it one? Echad? Oh, it could be echad, you're right. At which echad equals ahava. Yeah, that's right. I'll figure it out, but I have it in my siddur because every day I meditate on that. So I don't know. I don't have it exactly here now. But anyway, so ahava is echad, right? And maybe two lights equals echad. No. Okay, we'll figure it out. Anyway. So once a person physically expresses this, then this extra energy, this extra super consciousness, this extra light comes in and actually starts to affect the person's emotions and it helps the person start radiate and shine outward to the world. So the next thing is when dealing with words of rebuke. And we really have to hold ourselves with back, from just gut reaction, when something happens. Because even halachically, and I'm going to have to look this up and study this more in depth, maybe with all of us together, but there is laws how to rebuke someone. You can't just go with the flow of what you feel like saying. There's a lot of different steps one has to take before rebuking. But here, he's going to explain the benefit of really doing it in the right way. So he says here, like all other mitzvahs, there are laws surrounding the mitzvah of rebuking one's fellow. And he says if you look at the word tochacha, which is the word for rebuke, toch is in the midst of, cha equals ahava. So like you really need to do it from a place of love. If it's coming from a place of ego, I'll show him. He always makes me feel like a loser when I mess up. My turn to rebuke. Or of frustration and hurt feelings, and it's a negative energy, and then you just go ahead and lash out. They're not going to receive it, and in fact, it'll bring each other's position down. Oh, that's nice too. Wow. So we have to really, just like this man came with love and concern, like how could he behave this way? What did I do? Like when we do it that way, it affects the other person. But if it's coming from ego and aggressiveness and pain and without any real care and concern for the other person at the moment, they won't receive it. And it's just going to build walls. And the other person will feel less and less willing to come forward and help and be present and fix themselves. So, and this comes from Chesed Shebigvura. And this is the second day of creation, when God separated the second day when God said to the firmament, and it was a form of rebuke, saying that it should separate and that the waters up in Shemaim should stay. And it actually, he brings here that the Baal Shem Tov says that whenever anyway someone sees a person and sees their shortcoming in the other, it is first and foremost because God is showing him through the mirror of the other person a fault that in some way exists in himself. So really you have to seek out to fix it in yourself first. Then later deal with the other person. And then it'll benefit the other person. And then there'll be no trace of anger or indignation when then you're approaching that person. So in the heat of a moment, basically, don't deal with it. Do your own cheshbon nefesh. Do what fixing you can do on yourself. Try to have that image of that person stuck in the mud. Like, you don't want to now throw more mud. That's like lowly behavior. They're stuck. They went with the Yetzer Hara. They're blinded. They're swimming in Yetzer Hara. I don't know, whichever way you want to picture it. But have the compassion for them by first taking a step back and see what you can do. So, because really, it says here, when God said to the firmament, to be in the midst of the waters equals chesed. So when God was rebuking the waters and the firmament to separate, he was basically doing it in the midst of the waters, in the midst of chesed, if you're going to rebuke. If it's not in the midst of chesed, God is telling us don't do it. Wait. Do you get the connection? The waters equals chesed in Kabbalah. So now third, words of praise and admiration. Every Jew possesses infinite positive qualities, but a lot of times they lay dormant, and sometimes to such an extent the person himself doesn't even feel his positive qualities. So when you praise someone and you admire them, again, you might have to put blinders on everything else that they're not doing and everything that's going wrong in their behavior, like a child, and just like Aaron Cohen, you know, even the white lies. Aaron Cohen was a doctor, like a doctor. And what does a doctor do? Uses poison to heal. So even when you have to use white lies, because he would lie. Oh, he really wants to be your friend. He's so sorry. Yeah, right. Oh, yes, he said he's sorry. He wants to be himself. Yeah. He lied. And he made peace. And he used poison to do it, as it were. White lies. So even if we have to sometimes do a little white lying and praise them for barely anything that they rarely did, what happens? That potential in them comes sprouting out and comes forth. And he likens this to the day, the third day, which is Tiferes Shebechesed. And what was the third day? When Hashem removed and separated the waters from the land, all of a sudden the land started coming out, and what was hidden started blossoming. So the same thing in marriage. We have to follow Hashem's lead. We have to be sincere. We have to praise our spouse. And this then will bring out the good in them. And Baal Shem Tov actually said that really, if you want to start helping the other person spiritually grow, it might be patronizing to the person. Oh, you really should do the Tanya of the day. You're not going to show. Like, well, hello, you're not even helping me do the dishes. You're not even helping me do this or that. Like, why am I going to take your spiritual advice? I can't handle it. If you show me that you give me the physical help, then I'll feel that's a psychological thing going on. I'll feel more able to take your spiritual advice. So, like if a wife is, not giving her time to the husband, not pampering him, and only, complaining and only saying what's wrong and trying to fix him, he doesn't feel as it's sincere. And that's why it says here that when we do physical favors and we demonstrate the sincerity of our intentions, then the spiritual advice won't sound patronizing or be seen as a cheap substitute for real help. So if you're cold and you're not giving and you're waiting for him to make the first move and you're waiting for him to show he's sorry and he sees you as not being that caring, loving, helpful person, and vice versa too. And then nobody takes each other's advice. And really so he brings out the first person who was praised, and Rachel. Rachel was first praised for her physical attributes, and then later for her spiritual attributes. So it's very important to say, wow, you're working very hard, physical things. And then also they will accept your praise on the spiritual. And then eventually what will happen, the person will act as if he's already exhibiting this desired trait because he's being treated that way. And this will encourage him to then rise to the expectation held of him. But if a wife continually sees what's wrong in him, continually points a finger that you can't manage or you can't do this and you're that and you're not good with the kids, he's swallowed up by that. And then, God forbid, he gets more enmeshed in that stereotype and gets stuck there. But the more she puts those blinders on, even uses the white light, wow, it's amazing how you can't handle those kids. I couldn't have done it myself better. Whatever, and beef up the man's self-image.
So this is associated with the third day, because it said that the water under heaven be gathered to one place so that the dry land may appear. The dry land already existed, but it was covered by the sea. In effect, God was praising the dry land, saying it should be revealed. And this inspired the land to be revealed by speech. When he said it, it revealed the dry land. Do you understand? So by speech, when we say good things about our loved ones, what is already there becomes revealed. And then God praised it further, saying, let the earth bring forth grass, herb, and seeds, and trees. So then again, this praise serves to activate the earth's inherent but latent potential to produce plant life. So the people of Israel are likened to earth, and so we have great potential, but they're all buried, and these treasures are bountiful. And Hashem wishes to reveal this in every Jew. And he did by continuously praising even the simple Jews. And so again, this helps the other grow. And then what happens when you praise, that will even inspire your own love for the person. It says here, praising one's spouse can help fan the fire of love toward them. Also with children, like, oh, I love you. By saying it, you really start to feel it more. Because you're going to tap into your superconscious powers that gives you that ability to be able to feel that love. Yeah, not for everyone. Not for everyone. Especially when you have an extra challenging child. It's not as easy. So, number 4 is the words of control and direction. Now, we all find ourselves in some place of authority at some point in our life. But giving orders in a domineering, patronizing way might get quick results in the beginning, but in the end, long run, it will only bring resentment. So, like a lot of modern day therapists say, don't command your children, give them choices. And even I was once in 770 and I was learning a class on that word, the Am Nivchar. And the reason why we are called that, Nivchar means choice. Because God was saying, I'm going to give you the commandments, but it's your choice. So it's good to give choices. Because then the person on their own will be more willing to own up to his own decisions. You say, you have a choice. Either you're going to not listen to me and not go to bed, and then you won't be able to go to the wedding tomorrow because you're just going to be too tired. Or you'll go to your room and go to sleep, and it's up to you. Different cases, different situations. Yeah, it's very good to give choices. Anyway, because in the Sikha, the Rebbe said that giving choices is what makes a person more willing to comply. Part of it, yeah. And that's why we're called Am Nivchar, because Hashem really wanted it to come from our... Even a child, you see that there are people that sitting there eating. Right, it's hard for them. So if you say, don't jump on the couch, they probably won't listen. But if you say, couches are not for jumping, but here you can jump on the floor, then they'll be more open to hearing. They do not like commands. You have to do it, like it's like, hey, you're not going to do it. You can say, no, that's not a good one. You should say, yes, but later. Now is not the time. The less you can do no, the less you command, the less domineering, the better. So, yeah, it's for everyone, yeah.
So when it's approached in a proper manner, then the person will more gladly extend themselves and listen. But if it's a commanding, domineering, it's like, ugh, they don't want to. So we really have to use sensitivity and tact when we give instructions, whether it's to our husbands or to our children or our husbands to us. Autocratic exhibition of force are really almost a proof that the person themselves has a lack of conviction. In one of the books that explains Igros HaRambam, it says that, a wise man doesn't have to use force and not be dramatic and show, all this, energy and trying to convey his message, because he's the one who's insecure, and so that's why he has to use the force. A wise person realizes, I'm right, I don't need to use force. I'll say what I have to say, and that shows how he's secure in what he knows is right. The tall order, I know, is getting there, but... No, I agree with this. The happens in this world is so messed up that sometimes you need to separate yourself from the lower level and become a little bit like the world in order to have an impact. Again, that it's temporary impact at the cost of long-term resentment by the other. I see it. I really do see it. We're not going to 100% be able to 100% all the time have the perfect voice. This is a goal. That when we're going to give commands, we have to do it in a more loving way, in less aggression, less commanding way. And so he says here that so we really have to include sincerity, even when we have that position of authority at that moment and need to. So when we really recognize the other person's intrinsic value, and we really have within ourselves this desire to treat them with integrity, then when the directions are given, then it's just will bear better results. So we really have to first praise them, make them feel good about themselves, and then bring in, the level of direction that the person needs to take them to. And that's why this is called chesed shebenetzach, because you have to be a bit forceful, because you want to have the victory. And netzach also means supervising, because you really see clearly that it can't go on this way and it has to be that way, but it has to be done in a very careful way. And this is with the fourth day of creation. And Hashem put the firmament of the heavens to shine on the earth, to rule over the day and the night, and to separate between light and darkness. Now, just like the celestial bodies possess souls and are aware of all the affairs of the world, but they're just a conduit. I mean, they're just, they realize that I'm just doing this to manage the world because God's managing it through me. They control the seasons and the affairs and everything, but just as they are commanded by Hashem. So they don't owe anything and don't feel like they're owed. And they really know I'm just in the hands of the hatchet. I'm a hatchet in the hands of the woodcutter. So even as I'm trying to direct my household, who am I? I'm just trying to be bittul. I'm just trying to do it in an easy way, because it's really God and His direction that I'm trying to follow. So, you see the difference. And that's why actually Moshe got he was the leader, because he was so humble. He was like, I'm not a me here. I'm just like a channel through which I'm trying to direct my house for Kedusha. The fifth one is words of gratitude, and we're almost finished. And we'll stop there. We really have to feel grateful for everything, because everything is an undeserved gift. And the more we express gratitude to our loved ones, by giving sincere thanks and really from an authentic place in the heart, this will bring the whole communication process to its peak. And the more we have an attitude, I don't deserve anything. The more I work on myself not to feel I need this, I feel I need that, I have to have that, he should do this. Just say, look, if he just even does that, Baruch Hashem. And be grateful to that person. And he says that this then is connected to the fifth day with the fish in the sea. And they were able to be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters in the sea. And the reason why is because fish and birds have a level of humbleness to God more than anybody else. And because of that, they were actually given, and God blessed them. They were the first to be blessed. So when we are grateful and have hod, then God blesses us. And this is what elicits God's partnership with us and gives us more and more of His gifts. But when we just are thankful and grateful for everything and anything in our life. And when the person who's giving, even the very little, it gives them a sense of self-worth. Because then you feel good. Wow, she got this and she's so grateful. Wow, it makes me feel good about myself. And then I want to give more. But if they're not appreciative and then slap back an attitude of I should have got more, how dare you, like you're not giving me enough, this is nothing, this is bupkis, then that destroys their sense of self-worth and it doesn't validate them in any way, and then they don't want to further give, and then they run away. And that leaves them frustrated and empty. So articulating one's appreciation is just good for everyone. Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's amazing. So then the person will continue to want to give, the person will receive, and the other one then will also give and want to receive, and it's a vicious, yummy cycle of goodness and goodness, a holy cycle, not a vicious one. And he says here, in order to be successful and be fruitful, you need this successful cycle of giving and receiving, and then God will bless you. And then the instinct and the drive to procreate is like blessed. And then it's a level of being able to procreate. So maybe people who have a challenging time procreating, they need to work on being more thankful and use more gratitude for one another, because this actually gives the person a blessing to procreation. And just by thanking the other person, it's really thanking God and your indebtedness to Hashem for whatever good they give you. So it says here, couples who have not yet been blessed with children should pay particular attention to cultivating this aspect of speech and acknowledging each other's kindness. Anyway, so thank you for being patient with me in my journey of getting here. I'm happy we covered this, and we could just do even a few minutes of a meditation. And you summarize real quickly. The 5 are words of love, words of rebuke and constructive criticism, knowing how and when and halakhically how to do it. Again, always with chesed, the waters. When God rebuked the firmament, He did it in the midst of the water. Chesed, chesed, chesed. Words of praise and admiration, words of control and direction, that even when you have to do that, you have to do it from a place of chesed, sincerity, and love for the other. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. It might have quick results, but you then might not, in the long run, get the results you want if you use gvura and aggressive energy. And words of gratitude. All this is done through speech. And when you use your speech in these ways, in a holy way, you activate the higher superconscious powers of your soul, drawing down extra wisdom, the type of wisdom that help you change behaviors, your mind, your heart, and your soul. And as the teaching says in Darcy Lagani, in one of the chapters, that the way in which a person changes the feelings in his heart is by changing his understanding. The more wisdom, the more we can understand what's the dynamics of marriage, the more our hearts will change, and we won't have negative feelings and frustrations and heavy energies, and we'll have that wisdom to change our heart. We'll get to a place of more love and acceptance. Bezat Hashem. All right, so just even one moment, because I'm running also late to Great Neck. To 770, which is one of my students. Hold on. Okay, so we'll just take a moment and just close our eyes and really connect to the power of speech. I hope never again will you take for, not advantage, but I hope now, after learning this, just the way God created the world through speech, we can draw down super conscious powers and super levels of wisdom in our life through the way we speak. And just envision and practice now, really reminding yourself of using the tone of voice. And if you're not capable in this vision to, as you see a scenario in your life that normally would trigger the voice in a not so positive way, either practice removing yourself from the situation, saying a Tehillim, doing something to get out of that negative state. And when you're out of the negative state, even if it takes a day later, then visualize yourself having the power to speak from a place of care and concern and love. Because you don't want to be like that person throwing mud on someone who's already in the mud. Very clear in that story. Not so clear when the Yetzer Hara takes a hold on us. So move away from the situation in the vision. See yourself doing whatever it takes to get your mind off of what's bothering you at the moment. Take the time to relax, take a deep breath, and then when the time is right, remind yourself that when I will use my speech properly, what holy energies, blessings, superconscious powers, extra wisdom will come my way. And then feel it, mamish, coming to you and empowering you. All right, have a beautiful week. I'm sorry I have to be rushed, but you shall stay at this vision and do this practice every night before Shema Amidah or during Tefillah at some point. And this vision will more and more become a reality after now you have the knowledge. All right, keep shining by smiling.